Hi, welcome back to the basement. I'm Steve Lewis. Today we conclude our look at the third quarter of 1986, the months of July, August, and September. We'll talk about television, a little bit about the news, and take a quick look at what the Beach Boys were up to. We'll begin with television, and as usual in the third quarter of the year, there's not a whole lot of action in July and August. It's mostly summer reruns. The real action on television begins in September with the beginning of the new TV season. Even prior to that, on Monday, September 8th, Chicago local talk program The Oprah Winfrey Show goes into national syndication on weekday afternoons. One of the first notable new shows of the fall season rolled out on Saturday morning, September 13th. Over the last several years, kids' Saturday morning television shows had largely become insufferably cute shows aimed at very young kids, or toy commercials thinly disguised as TV shows, or both. On Saturday, September 13th, came the premiere of Peewees Playhouse on CBS. It was a high-budget series for Saturday morning that played on all the tropes of live-action kids' TV shows of the 50s. Amazingly, it was simultaneously a kids' show and a parody of a kids' show. Every episode was jam-packed with enough props, characters, puppets, cartoons, ideas, gags, and jokes for a dozen normal shows. The sets were chock full of wildly bright late 80s colors and patterns. The whole thing was just bursting with fun, and it was often hilarious. There were lots of funny recurring bits, and one that I particularly loved was the secret word. It was usually a common word, and you were told to scream real loud whenever you heard it. The funny thing to me was that you were told to do it for the rest of the day. I always pictured kids suddenly screaming at some random time and their parents having no idea that they had just said the secret word. The show was a big hit with kids, and Pee Wee Herman was already known to adults from his appearances on shows like Late Night with David Letterman and from last year's hit movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure. CBS soon discovered that a lot of viewers, myself included, were adults who taped it on their new VCRs to watch later. Watching a television show when you wanted to, not just when it was being broadcast, was a new and increasingly common phenomenon. Of course, the networks also began rolling out their new primetime shows in September. Among the notable new shows this fall, premiering on Monday, September 15th, is L.A. Law, a legal drama with an ensemble cast including Harry Hamlin, Susan Day, Corbin Burnson, and Jimmy Smits. It'll join NBC's Friday night lineup following Miami Vice and will run until 1994. On Wednesday, September 17th, following Perfect Strangers, came the new series Head of the Class. It was the kind of sitcom that ABC used to excel with. It starred Howard Hessman, the former Dr. Johnny Fever from WKRP in Cincinnati, as teacher Charlie Moore at New York City's Millard Fillmore High School. In a reversal of Welcome Back Kotter's Sweat Hogs, he was in charge of the honors students, who were brainy but often naive in the ways of the world. It'll run for 4 seasons. After more than 20 years, Andy Griffith returned to series television as Matlock, a simple country lawyer whose gentle manner contrasts with his shrewd legal skills. It's a crime drama that will prove popular and run until 1995. On Saturday, September 20th, another TV stalwart returned to series television. Lucille Ball was back in Life with Lucy. It was pretty much the same old Lucy shtick with a lot of the same folks who worked with her in the 50s and 60s. The comedy seemed tired and obvious despite some ham-fisted attempts to turn Lucy into a groovy grandma. At 75, Lucy wasn't really suited to physical comedy. It was pretty bad, though. As I remember it, her old foil Gail Gordon was pretty much still able to pull it off at age 80 and could almost rise above the abysmal quality of the material. After one look, I never wanted to see it again, and I'm sure I wasn't alone. Mercifully, it'll be canceled after only 8 weeks. Premiering on Monday, September 22nd was ALF on NBC. ALF was an acronym for Alien Life Form, and it was the story of a wisecracking extraterrestrial from the planet Melmac who crash-landed on Earth and moved in with a suburban family. It was certainly nothing we hadn't seen on TV plenty of times before, and the puppet sure looked like a puppet. Still, it'll be popular, especially with kids, and will run for 4 seasons. Having its premiere on Tuesday, September 23rd is Sledgehammer, an impossibly broad satire of police shows starring David Rashke in the title role as Detective Hammer, whose best friend and confidant is his gun. It was a long shot to succeed anyway, even before ABC put it on Friday nights opposite the second halves of two ratings juggernauts, Dallas on CBS and Miami Vice on NBC. The writers are so sure of cancellation that they'll blow Sledgehammer up in a nuclear explosion at the end of the season. The joke will be on them when it gets renewed for a second and, as it turns out, final season. Fortunately, this is the kind of show where surviving a nuclear blast is easily explained. On Friday, September 26th, the Dallas season cliffhanger was finally resolved and the sudden reappearance of Bobby Ewing explained. Bobby's death and the entire 9th season of the series had all been a dream. After a year away from the series, during which Dallas had slipped from 1st to 6th in the ratings, Patrick Duffy had returned at nearly double his previous salary. One of the first things I remember learning in 9th grade creative writing was don't end a story by saying it was all a dream. It's a cheap device and leaves people feeling like they've wasted their time. Apparently, the Dallas writers never took 9th grade creative writing, and based on the fury of the audience reaction, that was apparently one of the few entirely accurate things I ever learned in high school. CBS was building a strong roster of sitcoms on Monday nights. On September 29th, the new Designing Women joined the returning Kate and Allie and Newhart. It stars Delta Burke, Dixie Carter, Annie Potts, and Jean Smart. It'll run until 1993. A week later, on October 6th, another new sitcom, My Sister Sam, starring former Mork and Mindy star Pam Dauber as Sam and Rebecca Schaefer as Patty, will join the Monday night sitcom lineup. It'll do well in its first season, then tank in season 2 when CBS moves it to Saturday night. Unsurprisingly, NBC kept its highly successful Thursday night lineup intact. It was easily the most popular and lucrative group of shows on television. And as NBC was quick to point out to potential sponsors, with most people getting paid on Fridays, Thursday night was a great time to run those commercials and get those products firmly in people's minds. There were some changes within those shows, however. On The Cosby Show, Jeffrey Owens joined the cast as oldest daughter Sandra's boyfriend, Elvin Thibodeau. Second daughter, Denise, had graduated from high school and started attending Hillman College in Virginia, leading, of course, to a spin-off series next fall. More amazingly, on Family Ties, the Keatons' new baby Andy had aged about 5 years over the summer and turned into Brian Bonsall. Obviously, the writers saw more comic potential in a cute 5-year-old than a baby, so they just sped up the aging process. If they'd have kept it up, Andy would have been in his mid-20s by the time the series ended in 1989. I always wished they'd done a reunion show with all the original cast and gotten Burt Mustin to play Andy. On Cheers, Bebe Neuwirth joined the cast as Frasier Crane's new girlfriend, Lilith. On Night Court, Marsha Warfield replaced Frances Hollop, who had passed away over the summer. Warfield appeared as stern bailiff Roz Russell. The changes won't hurt. If anything, ratings in the new season will be stronger than they were in the last season, with The Cosby Show and Family Ties remaining at number 1 and number 2, Cheers right behind in 3rd place, moving up from 5th last season, and Night Court moving to number 7 from number 11 last season. Turning to news, on July 16th, in an event highly covered in the U.S. media, England's Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, popularly known as Fergie in the press, wed at Westminster Abbey after just over 1 year as a couple and having been engaged since February. On July 4th, the Beach Boys appear at Farm Aid 2, which is aired on the Nashville network. Their set includes their new single, Rock and Roll to the Rescue, and a version of Lady Linda reworked for the centennial of the Statue of Liberty called Lady Liberty. The group then fly to New York for a concert aboard the USS Iowa near the Statue of Liberty. This was during what was known as Liberty Weekend, a 4-day celebration of the Statue of Liberty's centennial and its reopening after 2 years of restoration. Between July 3rd and July 6th, there were speeches by dignitaries, concerts, fireworks, and a naval review. Rock and Roll to the Rescue peaks at number 68 on July 19th. It's followed up by a second single, California Dreamin'. On September 26th, the group, including Brian, tape an appearance on NBC's You Again with John Stamos. Much more about that when we talk about the fourth quarter. Hope you enjoyed this wrap up of the third quarter of 1986. I look forward to your comments. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't. I always appreciate that. Have a great week. We'll see you next time when we will talk about the Beach Boys' recorded work released in 1986. Till then, have a great week. Bye.